Hey, how's it going? It's your Challenger Coach, Adam Moriarty-Isles, here to bring you our Pick of the Patch video for 10.2, where our experts choose our favorite staple and up-and-coming picks. So without any further delays, let's jump right into it. For the top lane, our first pick of the patch will be Fiora, since it's the only champion our top lane expert can actually play right now besides Maokai. He says Fiora has been on the rise lately due to her buffs from previous patches, and now the most popular champions currently are tanks and bruisers that Fiora's kit does extremely well against. Combine that with the fact that poke and zoning champions are not as prevalent in the meta anymore, Fiora can just thrive by split pushing nowadays. For her build, you're going to want to start off with Ravenous Hydra into Trinity Force and then a Death's Dance as her go-to items. For her runes, you're just going to keep a standard Conqueror setup with your choice of secondary, but Inspiration seems to be the most consistent, but pretty much anything works on Fiora right now. She's just one of those champions where if you're better mechanically than the other top laner, you're just going to stomp the laning phase, which, you know, of course I have faith in you, and I assume that you already are better than them, and that the only reason you'd ever lose lane is, of course, jungle difference. So if you like to outplay and pick champions that are outplay oriented in top lane who can split push, pick up Fiora. Next up, we have pretty much almost the complete opposite of Fiora, and that's Sion. Sion is just one of those picks that is being more and more prevalent in the current meta and is a bit under the radar despite him being a solid pick. That's because some of his toughest matchups like versus Mordekaiser have been nerfed recently, and that means that tanks are going to be on the rise. Sion in particular though is a tank that provides a lot of initiative for the player due to his amazing engage from his ultimate. If you're looking for a tank with a lot of impact, try picking up Sion, and if you do pick him up for the build, you should try going Sunfire Cape, Thornmail into Spirit Visage as your core items, with adding in literally pretty much any tank item after that like Righteous Glory, the buffed Frozen Heart, or even a Gargoyle Stoneplate. As for his runes, take a normal grass primary setup with Demolish to help you be somewhat useful when you're actually pushing a lane, and then Inspiration secondary to help you survive the laning phase better. You're gonna want to pick up Sion if you're looking for a tank where having zero positional awareness can sometimes net you a double kill from your passive. That thing always does way more damage than you would think. Even the Sion player, I'm pretty sure, doesn't actually realize they're about to get that kill. In the jungle, our first pick of the patch will be the Troll King himself, Trundle. Okay, so Trundle did get a slight buff this patch to his W and his E, increasing his chase down potential by, you know, a lot. With Trundle, he's gonna prefer to keep press the attack over Conquer, but you can substitute it for your personal preference either way. But in either case, keep the secondary sorcery for that sweet Nimbus Cloak and Water Walking. With these buffs, we can possibly see Trundle open up as a blind pickable jungler instead of just a counter pick. He currently does super well into tanks or Olaf, but can likely be picked outside of these matchups as well. Just, you know, hopefully not when flares actually do accuse with me and he stops picking Trundle into Elise. That would be fantastic. Anyways, Trundle's build is pretty simple. You're going to want to go Tiamat into Blue Smite Cinderhulk into take items like Spirit Visage, or finishing the Tiamat into a Titanic Hydra. You can also go items like Zeke's if you have a worthy laner to attach it to. It's actually quite good on Trundle. That means you're going to want to pick up Trundle if you're someone who hates tank jungle players, Olaf abusers, or Lee Sin players, which at that point in time you hate most jungle players besides yourself. But luckily for you, Trundle's gonna be very good even versus not those champions, as his dueling potential is pretty good, and he should be able to keep up in farm and neutral objective control with most other junglers. Next up, we have Karthus for all you jungle players that like interacting with jungle monsters more than your own teammates. That's because Karthus has been creeping back into the meta due to the scrappy nature of solo queue giving him a lot of free kills with his ultimate. If you are fine with playing the Vladimir of jungle, you can enjoy your free elo as you waste away your enemy's mental as you ult them from across the map. For your jungle clear, you're gonna need to learn to proficiently kite camps to maintain high HP, otherwise you might be invaded and die. Your biggest weakness, on the other hand, though, is that you have almost no scuttle pressure unless your lanes have priority, which is almost never. Therefore, you're pretty much just going to want to full clear your jungle, reset, and then do your Gromp, as it pretty much should spawn by the time you walk back to it. After that, you just pretty much rinse repeat the process and ult to KS until you have a big enough gold lead to where you only need to land 1 out of 10 Qs to kill someone. To make this happen, for your core build, you're going to want to run Runic Echoes with Blue Smite, Oblivion Orb into Death Cap, and follow it up with things like Void Staff, Sonya's as needed. For his runes, you're pretty much 100% of the time gonna go Dark Harvest. It is just way too strong on him, but for his secondary rune option, there is some debate, but as we all know in Season 10, when in doubt, Inspiration secondary. That's what I always like to say. Now we got the mid picks of the patch, with our first pick being Talon. Talon's just one of those champions that everyone hates playing against, and it's for a good reason. Did you know he has one of the highest first blood rates at level 2 out of any champion, and his solo kill potential is absurdly high? But not only that, even if he can't solo kill you, he's just gonna push the lane and then roam to either side lane, or even just kill your jungler at Scuttle. This just makes him incredibly annoying to play versus, because whenever you want to make an aggressive play in a side lane, Talon just jumps over a wall to counter you. Or, when you've been pushed under tower, he just jumps over a wall to dive you. Or, if you're a mid laner and you try and follow his roams, he just, jumps over a wall to kill you. Pretty much what I'm saying is, his pressure on the early game is one of the best in mid lane, not just mid lane actually, in the entire roster, making him a perfect pick for such a chaotic early game meta. To play this rip-off of Assassin's Creed of a champion, for your core items you're going to want to go Tiamat, Duskblade into Ghostblade to maximize your Roam and one-shot potential, along with Electrocute with Sorcery Secondary to pretty much do the same thing. Big up Talon if you're not really a lane kingdom type of player, but instead prefer to roam and tilt the enemy jungler, as he complains about mid-priority issues more than TSM does in their VOD reviews. So for the next pick, we have a champion that received some buffs recently, and that's Bomberman wannabe Ziggs. Ziggs hasn't been seen a lot recently, ever since he was gutted due to him being able to single-handedly stall out games for, more than 60 minutes. With the recent set of buffs he received, his Q will now be able to one-shot the backline, his W will provide him with more safety, and his E will even slow more, allowing him to hit follow-up skill shots and zone easier. Keeping all these things in mind, he might make a comeback as either a mid laner or a bot lane carry, as he won't be forced to burn his entire kit just to clear a single minion wave, allowing him to keep his other abilities to poke or zone as needed, increasing his early to mid game impact. It is a bit of a prediction to put him as A tier on this patch, but at worst he will be high B tier. For the build, you can use the standard control mage setup of Ludens, Liandry's into Deathcap, and for your runes, take Comet with Inspiration Secondary for better poke. Remember to pick up Ziggs if you like poke mages who can stall out games while also trying to hit half-court shots like Kobe, and I swear to god, every single time I see a Ziggs player, which to be fair isn't that often, they do try and W into mid-air Q combo at least once a game. And we got the ball lane picks of the patch for you, so I'll just leave you with the robots and also Jinx, since she is actually our pick of the patch. That's because Jinx had a good buff this patch that will now allow her to activate her passive from killing epic monsters like Dragon or Baron. The Season 10 changes encourage a lot of fights around these objectives, so while it might seem small, it should have a relatively big impact as long as your team actually gets the dragon. With that passive active, she's going to do significantly more damage at the beginning of a fight and be able to kite easier and chase people down when they're trying to contest it. Jinx is already just such a strong ADC and thankfully avoids the Stormrazor nerf on 10.2, as she wasn't building it in the first place, opting instead for an Infinity Edge rush. For her core build, as I just mentioned, it's going to be Infinity Edge, Rune on Hurricane into Rapid Fire Cannon in that order, with Lethal Tempo inspiration for your runes. It's just a shame that marksman setups are so linear sometimes, although to be fair, it does make my job a little easier, so maybe I should just shut up and not complain as much. That means you're going to want to pick up Jinx if you like late game scaling teamfight ADCs who, when they get fed, can easily 1v5 a teamfight, because all it takes is just that one person to give you a reset, and then you'll just chase down that pentakill faster than a Warwick running down a 10 HP Yuumi. For our next pick of the patch, we have a slightly underrated pick who honestly should be played more often in this role, and that's Senna. Senna has become one of the best ADCs in Season 10, even though she isn't played as much and has been directly nerfed to be more of a support. She's got a lot of keystone options that work, but Glacial Augment has reached above the rest, at least for now, giving her a better kiting ability, a lot of setup, and it's especially good because it's able to proc off of her Q, which is just broken because that thing's got mega range. Outside of that, she also scales into an absolute monster, and that's one of her biggest strengths. The damage output late game is very hard for anyone to keep up with. That unfrop damage is like even better than Jin's. Not only that, she has amazing engage and crowd control, and when you combine that with the support's crowd control and damage, she can be pretty hard to play against. For her build, you're going to want to start off with Monomune into Duskblade into Ghostblade as her core, with Glacial Augment, as mentioned earlier, along with Precision Secondary for better health and mana sustain. Personally though, I think Senna ball lane is just incredibly broken at the moment, and she is one of my favorite ADCs to have on my team. But Adam, why is that? Why do you like having her on your team? Well, the main reason for that is that she brings CC, utility from her W, and an ult and a heal on her Q, and she still has the damage of a normal marksman in the late game, meaning even if your support player does absolutely nothing, Senna's gonna do their job for them, making it a real 1v2 ball lane champion. On to the support picks of the patch, and our first one is going to be Taric as one of the strongest sleeper picks on this patch for the support role. Taric is a very strong pick at the moment and is great against every single S tier champion on our roster. He is great because he can turn around any exchange from a tank or engage support with his stun, leaving them overextended and potentially out of position for them just to die. Taric is not just great against tanks though. If you're able to actually land your stun on poke and range champions, it's pretty much a guaranteed kill every single time, meaning that Flash E is really easy to set up ganks. The only problem you might run into though as laning as Taric is against poke supports, he has to remain healthy in lane. You have to constantly adapt and move your positioning to remain healthy in the laning phase, because unless you are actually landing those stuns with Flash, you're probably going to get out pressured. But as long as you can avoid that, you should be pretty much good to go and outscale most other supports. For the core build, try out Zeke's, Locket, Trillia's, or Redemption along with Guardian Inspiration to help you survive better during the laning phase. You're gonna want to pick up Taric if you want an easier tank support to play that doesn't require any combos in the laning phase. He's pretty self-explanatory. Or if your duo plays Lucian, I cannot express how unbelievably powerful this duo Q combo is. If it were more popular, I would actually ban it every single game, even though I main mid lane. The second pick of the patch though for support on 10.2 though will be Blitzcrank. I am just so glad we picked my favorite support because with the popularity of Nami Janna and the buffs to pretty much every single other enchanter, he's gonna have such a fun time on this patch. I can already picture it now because Blitzcrank is already excelling at killing enchanters in past metas with his buffed ultimate that removes shields, and popular champions like MF, Jinx, or Caitlyn having so much trouble dodging his hooks because let's be real, Ned is so awful doing that. So I expect Blitzcrank's ban rate and pick rate to increase on this patch because he's just gonna have so many different hook targets. All you really need to do on Blitzcrank, to be honest, is walk up slowly and punch someone if they let you get in range. Sometimes you might have to burn flash to do it, or you're gonna have to hook the ADC when they try and last hit the cannon minion. All of it's pretty simple though. If you're curious about his build, you're gonna want to rush Righteous Glory first into things like Zeke's, Locket, Knight's Vow, and Redemption being pretty good follow-ups. As for his runes, you're gonna want to go Aftershock with Inspiration secondary for Hex Flash, because I just love using that thing. Pick up Blitzcrank if you like bullying enchanter players. Not that I condone bullying, alright? I'm not gonna say that. But if it's for the sake of LP, maybe we can change it to, and call it a strategy instead. That's it for our pick of the patch video for 10.2. Make sure to check out more Mobalytics content on this YouTube channel or on our website at mobalytics.gg. I'm Adam Warrior Dials, and hopefully I'll see you out on the Rift.